us today for our talk about perimenopause and menopause in women. It's kind of a taboo topic, at least it was for me at times, and didn't know a lot about it. So I'm glad that we're here to discuss it. Before we get started, I'll introduce myself. I'm Christine. I'm the Community Engagement and Education Specialist here at Lone Rock Clinic. And our star is Camille.
Oh yeah, the star.
Camille is the owner and our physician associate here at Lone Rock Clinic. Before we get started, Camille, do you want to tell us, why did this place start?
Well, we started because of a huge public need. During the COVID pandemic, we just found that so many patients were not getting appropriate care, especially not mental health care. When all of the clinics shut down and everything kind of went into lockdown, we would see through urgent care and through primary care people coming through that had major anxieties and depressions and major mental health illnesses that were not being addressed, that couldn't be addressed well by their primary care provider. And lots of specialists went into lockdown, especially those first few months when everything just kind of shut down. And we got to see, a couple of my colleagues and I got to see some kind of inappropriate or maybe not the best medication for mental health. And maybe some of those medications for mental health were mixing with other medications that they had and coming up with some really bad outcomes. And so we just started thinking of, what can we do grassroots here in Eugene to help people as we try to weather through this whole unknown, ended up being 3 or 4 years of COVID. Yeah. So we started small via telemedicine just to reach out to some of our patients and colleagues' patients, trying to get their mental health medications kind of straightened away and make sure they were on the right things. And then grew from there into a little one-room clinic. And now we're here in our lovely suite downtown Eugene.
Yeah, with 5 or 6 rooms, I think. So really morphed into the need for mental health and medication management here in Eugene to now doing primary care, offering hormone replacement therapy, as we're going to talk about today, perimenopause and menopause, weight loss solutions, really the whole gamut of everything your primary care would offer, plus more.
All of our body has to do with our mental health, and our mental health has to do with all of our body. If somebody is, obese and unable to lose weight, and they have brain fog and they have hot flashes, try being your best at work and having great mental health and great self-esteem and all those other things. And so everything we do tends to roll back into primary care, but the whole body primary care.
Yeah, I think one of the things we've talked about is brain, body equals comprehensive health. So really treating the whole person.
We try,
yeah.
Yes.
So excellent. So that's a little bit about Lone Rock Clinic, but today, like I said, we're going to talk about perimenopause and menopause. And let's just start with, what the heck is the difference, Camille? What is the difference? I got to tell you, I didn't even know there was a difference until I've, got a little older.
Yeah. Well, so perimenopause versus menopause. Perimenopause is, peri means anything around. And so menopause is specifically when you have not had a period or menstruation for 12 months. So if you are on an IUD or if you have birth control, that doesn't include any of that stuff. It's when unmedicated, you haven't had a period for more than 12 months, you are officially in menopause. So perimenopause is anything before that and anything around that. So sometimes women, even in their late 30s, early 40s, will be in perimenopause, will start to have some of those symptoms and some of those, complications.
Excellent. I was watching a show the other day. It was a comedy. I'll admit, I think it was the Goldbergs. And one of the kids said to mom, isn't menopause when you're just sweating all the time and you're cranky and you don't sleep? And
that's a decent.
That was, for a kid, a teenage kid. But really, what are the symptoms of menopause? Because it's more than just not having a period, right?
Sure.
Like it affects everything.
Yep. So if we're looking at like the dictionary definition of menopause, it's not having a period, but all of those perimenopausal symptoms are totally different. It does include hot flashes. It does include night sweats. It does include some, maybe increased irritability or maybe brain fog, feeling tired. It also includes lower libido, not wanting to get out and do things, maybe starting to notice that your belly fat is here in the front instead of where it used to be. There's a ton of changes, both in your brain, in your body, everywhere that gets affected by perimenopause.
And as a woman, how do we know that it's perimenopause as opposed to I'm just stressed out and I'm depressed, or just life in general?
Yeah.
How do we discern what the difference is?
Really, really tough. I don't know that there's a great way to 100% discern one or the other. Because yeah, you're right. Perimenopause hits and you have kids or you have jobs that are stressful and you have everything else going on as well. And so going to a healthcare provider that's going to be really willing to listen and look at the whole story and look at, oh, well, you're just overweight, or, oh, you just need to exercise more, or, oh, it's that time, don't worry about it. Having somebody that will say, oh, well, let's look at your hormones. Let's keep a journal of your symptoms and, what days of the month are you getting more hot flashes versus what days of the month are you feeling really crying all the time at the drop of a hat. There's a lot to be said for monitoring and logging and journaling about all of those symptoms so you can see the rise and fall over time.
Would you say there's a definite importance in having that hormone testing done as opposed to you're just like, well, you're 40x years old and that's it, you're in perimenopause?
Yeah, so it's really tough because when you get to be 40x years old and you're in perimenopause, your hormones can change on the daily. So if you look at your typical menstruation or your typical cycle as a female, you will notice that hormones will change. You'll have estrogen and then it'll change and then you'll ovulate and then you'll have progestin and then things will change again. When you're in perimenopause, like all bets are off. You could have up and down. It could be different on the day. So on the one hand, yes, checking hormones and making sure that there's nothing really errantly or really critically wrong is super important. On the other hand, if you checked the same female on 10 different days throughout their perimenopause cycle, they might have different levels all 10 days, and it wouldn't be super straightforward. So when we're looking at perimenopause and if you should treat perimenopause versus, oh, well, you're just old and that's fine, we want to look at the symptoms. Are you having hot flashes? Are you having brain fog? Are you having abdominal weight gain? Are you having loss of libido and really low energy? Because then we can go in and check, so are your hormones okay? And if hormones are basically in the normal ranges, then we feel comfortable, kind of playing with them and altering them to help you feel better. Versus if we do your hormones and, oh my gosh, there's something that's really wrong, well, then we need to address them first.
Excellent. Well, how do you recommend that women advocate for themselves? Because, I think we both mentioned it a little bit. Like, how do you know if it's just I'm crazy today or I'm really having a hormonal imbalance? And how do you advocate for yourself with your primary care provider or any provider that you're going to be like, I feel like something's wrong, help me?
Yes. Well, and so you have to advocate. There's no other way around it. That doesn't mean you're going to be super successful. I mean, let's be real. That in the world of medical school, I mean, whether you're a nurse or a physician or a PA or whatever you are, when you go to medical school and you're learning about, hormones and gynecology and women's care, really very, very small amount of time is spent on hormones, and especially hormones of the 40 to 55-year-old female, right? Like that's like it's one page. And so not only do we need to advocate for ourselves, but we need to get through the idea of, oh my goodness, my primary care provider or even my gynecologist that maybe went to school in X whatever years maybe wasn't taught a whole lot about this. I mean, yep, there's this time and there's this change and there's this thing, but as far as really being able to advocate for yourself for specific hormones and specific therapies and how can we feel, deal with this and this and this, you're going to have to maybe talk to a lot of people to get somebody that will really know things to do.
And I know today we're talking about women's health, but that sentiment is for everyone, men and women, whether it's hormones or any kind of health care that you need.
Yeah. I mean, and let's be super honest, historically, there are more, male doctors than female doctors. And so historically, a guy with low testosterone may get listened to a little bit better by their primary care provider if it's a man, because a man can relate to men's problems, a woman can relate to women's problems. And I'm not saying that there aren't amazing male providers out there that are excellent at hormone therapy and all of that stuff, but just kind of historically, I think low testosterone and low T. I remember seeing commercials about low T when I was in my teens. I remember these, crazy commercials with these guys that looked really happy and where, do you have low T? I never saw commercials about, hey, do you have low E or low P or low whatever?
Yeah. It was just what happened.
It's just what happened. It's like,
we were
well,
the
now you're
cranky,
old.
sweaty woman. Like
Now you're old and sweaty, and that's the way it goes. And so, yeah, you're going to have to find the right person that knows what to do.
And I think that's really important, and maybe a shift in healthcare that I'm seeing from my parents' generation to my generation is that we have choices and that we can just decide, like, I'm not getting the care that I feel like I need. I'm going to try someone else. Like, not everything that everyone says is the gospel, so to speak.
Yeah.
Right. So it's important to find someone that listens to you.
Absolutely. But it's also important to realize that while, your primary care provider may be amazing and excellent at 95% of the things for you and, be great and thankful and have a wonderful relationship with them, maybe they're not great at this 1 to 5%. And maybe it's time to look for something else just for that one little spot.
Yeah. So I think if there's one takeaway from our talk, and we're certainly not done, but, it's really to advocate for yourself for any type of healthcare, whether it's your hormonal imbalances or feeling sweaty or feeling sad all the time.
Yeah. I mean, just talk about it.
Yeah.
I mean, as females, we get so ingrained to, oh, well, let's don't look bad. We don't want to talk about being sweaty. That's, or that's terrible or brain foggy. Who wants to talk about having low libido and not wanting to, have those kind of relationships? And so, yeah, you're just going to have to, we all just are going to have to stand up and say, we want to feel better.
Yeah, and this is a normal part of my life.
It is.
I am normal because I'm changing.
50% of the world is going to go through this.
Yeah.
It's okay to talk about it.
Yeah, so let's talk about it. Well, let's talk a little bit about hormone replacement therapy and what that is, what that means. I know there's a lot of terms of like bioidentical hormone therapy. I've heard the words pellet therapy. I've heard natural therapy.
Yeah.
We're throwing a lot of things via commercial and social media. So maybe if we could break down those different types of hormone therapy and what that means for women.
Yeah, perfect. So hormone therapy is anytime you are getting some sort of exogenous or outside hormone that is hopefully going to help you, feel better. Actually, hormone therapy could help you feel worse as well. But any sort of time you are getting a medication or anything from outside your body that is altering your hormones, right? So in the world of females, we deal mostly with estrogen and progesterone. If you have a uterus, you need to be treated with estrogen and progesterone versus if you've had a hysterectomy and you don't have a uterus, we could do just estrogen therapy alone. That being said, females have other hormones, and sometimes a little bit of testosterone might be beneficial. So when we talk about hormone therapy, anything that is a hormone coming in is going to be hormone therapy. We have to talk about, is it coming from a pharmacy? Was it made in a factory with, chemists creating these compounds and then making it into a cream or a pill or a patch? That would be non-bioidentical hormone replacement therapy versus we have other companies that will make those hormones out of plant-based and out of things that are molecularly much more similar to our female hormones, and those would be considered bioidentical hormones. And so then we have to have the conversation between pharmaceutical medications versus like compounded medications. So pharmaceutical medication, they're FDA approved. They're very highly and strictly looked after and make sure that their quality control is great. Super excellent. But I will say that for some women, especially dealing with menopausal stuff, that they're not going to find all the answers in FDA pharmaceutical from a big company manufacturer. They may have to step outside of that to a compounding pharmacy. The compounding pharmacy also very, very highly regulated, not quite to the extent of pharmaceuticals and not FDA approved, but super, super safe if you are working with a high quality compounding pharmacy. They can make plant-based, they can make different molecules, they can add specific amounts of certain molecules to really get much closer to what we produce as a female. And in that case, you can have creams, you can have pills, you can have patches, you can have pellets. Pellets specifically are compounded. They look like about a grain of rice. They're very small, and they actually get put under your skin, and they release 3 to 4 months of very continuous, steady hormone therapy. So rather than taking a pill every day or having to change a patch every week or having to put creams places that we don't want to put creams, you can just have this one pellet under your skin. It releases nice time-released continuous therapy, it'd be great for people. It's not for everybody, for sure, but there are a lot of really great options out there.
Excellent. Well, I know you probably can't answer specific questions for any of our audience, but what about insurance for hormone therapy? That was one thing that had come in before we talked right now. So does your average insurance pay for this, or is this like, Botox?
It is both. How about that? So pharmaceutical based, very standard hormone therapy can quite frequently get paid for by insurance. The labs to check your hormones, if you're having symptoms of perimenopause, can absolutely get covered by insurance. If you're wanting insurance to cover the laboratory work and the office visit and the therapy, the hormone therapy itself, probably you're looking at non-bioidentical hormones. There are some insurances that will also pay for compounded hormones. That's not out of the realm of possible. It's just a little bit longer workaround. There are some things that your insurance typically won't pay for. So sometimes pellet therapy, they'll pay for like part of the office visit, they'll pay for some of it, but they may not pay for like the pellet itself. And so having a discussion with somebody that knows how the billing process works, that can give you an idea. And there are certainly ranges of prices. I mean, I know people that will pay $600, $700, $800 to get a pellet placed, and a similar clinic in the same town can do the exact same thing with the exact same pellet for, $200 to $300 to $400. It depends a lot on the clinic. It depends on their level of care and if they're credentialed with insurance companies. So you'll find a lot of hormone-specific healthcare clinics typically don't want to bill insurance. They'd rather just kind of do that cash pay Botox, come in and we'll treat you. Versus if you are going to see a little bit more of like a medical-based or broad-based company that accepts insurance, they can usually work through more of the insurance hurdles and get more of it covered by insurance.
Excellent. Well, I know that we all are on social media, and I know I see all the time that there's hormone therapy, online and everything. And those are the clinics that really are the cash pay, which is fine. And people need that. There's nothing against that. But just to talk about insurance for a little bit, one, it can be covered depending on your insurance,
It
like
sure can be
anything.
covered. Yep, absolutely.
And-
If it is necessary, if it's medically necessary, if we can prove that it's needed, and if it is an FDA approved safe therapy, absolutely, it can get covered.
Well, I know we're almost at time today, but are there any closing thoughts that you have for everybody today about, the change that happens in women and how we deal with this?
Yeah, I think it's amazing. I happen to be super excited and glad to be a female and have a uterus. And I always tell my girls, I have 3 girls, and I always say, oh my gosh, you can create humans. Your body is made to create life. How much cooler and stronger can you get than that? And so just because we get to maybe the end of that phase and we're into, not being able to produce humans ourselves, that's okay. Let's have the talk and let's be strong and let's be powerful and let's make sure our weight is where we want it and keep our joints strong and keep our bones strong and make sure that we're healthy going into our 80s and 90s and to 110.
Yeah, exactly. And the difference that are happening in our 40s, I think we can both admit that we're of that age. And
Yes, it's true.
it's not the end of our lives.
Oh, not at all.
It's just something different.
It can be so
And-
much better.
Mhm.
I mean, you get past the hot flashes when you get past some treatments and get through some of that stuff. And I can't wait. I think I'm excited. I mean, you don't have to worry about so many different things and so many different, just changes to your schedule and changes to all sorts of things. And suddenly you're like free to do whatever you want to do.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, I'm very excited that I can go backpacking and I don't have to worry about carrying anything extra,
Right.
in case something
Yeah.
happens.
You go on vacation and you don't have to schedule around anything. Yeah,
it's great.
yep, excellent.
Well, to talk about us a little bit, not just our personal things that are happening as women of the age, but at Lone Rock Clinic, the age, we do accept new patients. Obviously, this is a topic that Camille is passionate about and likes to, listen to her patients. So I encourage you to give the clinic a call, schedule an appointment, learn more if you would like to talk about your hormones. So thanks for joining us today, and we hope to see you on our next segment.
Sounds great. Thank you.